An explosive week here in the state of New Jersey for Governor Christie. Hello, everyone. It's time for Fresh Outlook. I'm Mia Toski. Well, if you didn't know, we tape our show live from New Jersey, but we have viewers from all over the country and all over the world. And here in New Jersey, everyone was talking about the biggest scandal of Christie's career, and we'll be talking about that on the show today. It's being called Bridgegate after emails show that Christie allies plotted a traffic nightmare near the George Washington Bridge as political payback. Could the scandal put an end to the governor's White House dreams? Also, speaking of schemes, a decades-long relationship with Ponzi schemer Bernie Madoff has cost J.P. Morgan $2.6 billion. That announcement made this week. We'll talk about why the bank failed to notify authorities of suspected fraud for years. And speaking of finances, we are going to talk about debt. College debt. 60% of college students are now majoring in debt, with bills ranging from $30,000 to six-digit debt. We'll have author Helene Nutfali tell us about her work with students to cut down that debt. But first, New Jersey's governor. Christie's White House hopes may have hit a massive roadblock after a roadblock near the world's busiest bridge. Will the governor get an easy pass from voters after his nearly 2-hour apology this week? Let's have a look.
New Jersey Governor Christie leaving Fort Lee City Hall after apologizing to the mayor personally for the George Washington Bridge scandal that's now making headlines.
We had a very good and productive meeting, and I have great respect for the mayor. We had a very good conversation.
That conversation over the apparent political game played at the bridge last September. Several lanes deliberately shut down for days, causing traffic to back up into Fort Lee, blocking individual cars, stalling emergency vehicles, hindering school buses. Why? So-called political payback for Mayor Mark Sokolich not endorsing Christie's re-election.
We view his appearance here as very productive. It was a very productive meeting. It was a cordial meeting.
The fallout now leading to a class action lawsuit filed by attorney Rosemarie Arnold and a growing list of affected drivers stuck in the gridlock.
For all of the people who lost time, who lost wages, who lost business, who missed their airline flights, who missed their doctor's appointments.
Among them, resident Joy Galicki held up in traffic for nearly 2 hours.
My anxiety built up. Because of this, I started to sweat, and I literally had a panic attack.
The alleged scheme detailed in nearly 1,000 newly released emails, letters, diagrams, and other documents seen here, including a series of secret exchanges between a Christie aide and an official with the Port Authority, which operates the bridge. Christie's aide writing, "Time for some traffic problems in Fort Lee." A Port Authority official responding, "Got it." Later, the aide wrote, "Is it wrong that I am smiling?" The Port Authority official responding, "No." Both officials fired, including David Wildstein, the now former director of the Port Authority, who refused to answer any questions in a hearing this week.
On the advice of my counsel, I respectfully assert my right to remain silent.
We know what they did was intentional. We don't need to wait for 900 pages of documents. We have emails that show that what they did was deliberately designed to inflict substantial damages on the people of Fort Lee.
The bridge scandal threatening Governor Christie's administration and any aspirations he might have had for higher office.
And to talk more about the bridge scandal, we are joined by former White House aide Behnke and Anthony Caruso, an attorney and former counsel to New Jersey Governor Jim Florio. And of course, we also have Jackie Guzda, media analyst. Thank you all for being on the show. And wow, what a week this was for Governor Christie. There's so much to say, and where do we start? Let's talk about the scandal itself. We'll all talk about that. Also want to talk about what's going to happen moving forward for the governor and, of course, his apology. So, Dee, we're going to let you kick things off right now. Let's start first about the scandal itself.
Well, he didn't do it. It was his staffers. Okay, that happens. I worked at the White House. You had staffers abuse power all the time. It's happened in every administration. And you know, when you're a high-powered staffer in a governor's office, that is very powerful. And look what they did. But Christie immediately handled it. He gave this exhausting press conference where he answered every single question. He said he was sorry literally 20 times. And he handled it beautifully, I think. I mean, you know, I think it makes him look more like a leader. I think it helped him actually in the end.
Well, his one comment was a leader is defined by how they handle problems. I thought that was a very interesting comment that he made. Jackie, it's your ball now.
Yeah, I think he's toast.
Gosh,
I do.
No way.
Yeah, he is toast because this is not about a traffic jam. This is about abuse of power.
But not his.
We don't know that
Neither
yet.
do you.
I do not know
Don't
that
accuse
yet.
him of that already.
I did not
You're
accuse him.
Just like the general media. It's
we just
ridiculous.
got here. Let's be nice. Look, He was trying to rebrand himself in that 2-hour press conference.
He handled it.
No, he handled it well. However, look at what's happening. I happen to like Christie. However, he's coming across as a bully. He said that
in that press conference. He was so nice and apologetic.
Hang on, ladies. We want to welcome our first guest here. Also, Anthony Caruso has not been on this show yet, so let's get some thoughts from you first before we go at it, because I have a feeling this is a pretty explosive topic, as we have been saying. Anthony,
my viewpoint is this is happening all over, many times throughout all kinds of government. It's happening at the local level. It's happening at the state level. It happens at the federal level. Governor Christie most likely had no idea this was going on. This is the kind of thing where staffers that are looking to make a name for themselves are trying to do the right thing, thinking the governor would support it. The governor can't be involved with every single communication, and honestly, I don't approve of what happened, but this is not something that should be blown out of proportion. This happens all the time.
And by all the time, we may want to be a little bit more worried about that, though. If aides are making some pretty big decisions that affect people's lives, I mean...
Well, keep in mind now, we're talking about, and I don't agree with it. Let me start off by saying I think we all agree that we don't agree. But closing 2 lanes at the George Washington Bridge is, in my view, a prank. It's a silly, stupid prank that was done. It's not a violation of constitutional rights, but it does happen. I'm not making an excuse for it. But this is something that staffers that want to climb to the top will think the governor is backing him when the governor has no idea this is going on.
Well, Anthony, I'm going to maybe dispute the prank end of it. I understand what you're saying. However, if you live near the area, and I live about 8 miles from there, it was really no prank. And of course, you also had the 91-year-old lady who also died. So there were some serious issues, and they did make that clear that the emergency vehicles could not get through.
But see, I think Anthony's right, where other people in the country think it's a prank. People in Indiana, or people in Missouri, they're like, who cares about a bridge in New Jersey?
They don't care about the bridge in New Jersey, but they do care about electing a president who has abused power.
But Jackie, you're saying he abused power. He didn't do it.
And who surrounds
Really?
himself with people who would do this kind of thing.
And he fired them. He handled it.
He fired 2 people. And he didn't know what was going on with his closest staff members.
Okay, well, let's look at Obama. How many things have happened with
I don't want to talk about it.
Let's keep it to Christie. Let's keep it to Christie. Innocent till proven guilty. You're the attorney here.
I believe that if information comes out that show the governor knew about this, well, then obviously he will be in very big trouble. At this point, though, we have to take him at his face value. He's the kind of politician, he's been accused of being a bully, but he's certainly a no-nonsense, honest guy. And I have no problem believing him at this point that he had no idea it was going on, because I know how the governor's office works. It's layered, tons of people down there, it's overstaffed, and everybody's trying to make their way. This kind of thing happens all the time.
But should we, let's take a lesson from this, should there be changes?
Yes.
I mean, and how could we implement any kind of changes? And
Didi,
you're a White House aide.
It happens all the time. I mean, and when you find it, you know, you try to have your checks and balances, and believe me, there are a lot of them at the White House. You know, and I think Governor Christie's staff is really quite good, which is why he caught this. They abused the power. They're like, you know what, they think they can do anything, but they didn't get away with it, and he immediately fired them. He handled it.
But I do have a question about an aide being given the authority to shut down some lanes. I mean, that seems to be a pretty big.
Well, that may have been more of a friendship connection than actual authority. When I was in the governor's office, I actually was in the governor's authorities unit. Our job was to have an independent relationship among all the independent authorities, like the Port Authority, where we would be the eyes and ears of the governor. So I'm not saying anything bad or negative about the Christie administration. Every governor does things differently, but when I was in the governor's office, we had to be involved with the staff of every authority on a daily basis, letting them know the governor's message. Even in that
and the Port Authority is a very, very powerful board. That is one of them. They're very powerful.
Even
so they're
in
able
that position,
to do it and have the authority to do it.
This could have happened even in that position. So it's kind of human nature that we're trying to prevent.
I want to talk next about the apology. Didi, you touched upon it. An hour, 45 minutes plus. Was it an hour, 48 minutes, I believe it was?
Almost 2 hours.
Yeah, almost 2 hours. I can just imagine all the reporters waiting for that with their live shots and everything. But let's go through and just see how everybody analyzed his apology. We'll start with you, Didi.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how he could have handled it any better. I mean, he apologized literally 20 times. He was up there an hour and 40 minutes, and he was taking the abuse. And And by the end, the reporters were just kind of letting him go because they're like, well, we can't beat up on him because he's answered everything. And I thought it was unfortunate that some of the media, they wanted to talk about, oh, how pathetic, how terrible. I mean, you know, the guy just can't win, but that's all right. Because I think overall, the American people and the people in New Jersey are like, okay, well, he handled it and handled it well. And it'll show that if we're talking about a presidential bid, he's a guy who would be able to handle Putin. You know, there's no way that anybody's going to say that Chris Christie is not going to be able to handle something with authority. He took down his staff. I mean, these are close people to him. Obama, and the only reason I'm making a point of it, he hasn't fired a soul. Of all these things he said he had.
Can we talk about Christie?
Okay.
Well, we are, but I'm just making a comparison. I'm making a comparison because Obama, with 5 different cases, he has not fired these people and he's not handled it, and he didn't know a darn thing. Hillary as well. Look what Christie did. He found out about it and he fired his people. Big deal.
Okay, Jackie, just respond to the apology itself. What did you think of the apology?
That's what I was trying to do. He looked terrific yesterday. And he did that because his image is so tarnished because of this incident. He was trying to come across as a kinder, gentler governor than those clips that they were showing of him calling his constituents idiots and telling people to shut up, etc. You know, he looked fabulous during Sandy. He was there for the people of New Jersey. He looked fabulous when he won the last election. He came out like give 'em hell Harry, not like the bully that he was in those clips. Now, if he had gone a little further with controlling his anger and not insulting the people around him, then he could push this give 'em hell Harry persona and really flown with the people in the South and the Midwest. I think yesterday, regardless if he is innocent or guilty, I have no idea really who did it. Nobody knows for sure except Miss Kelly. And we haven't heard from her, nor will we hear from her.
We likely won't be here.
Yeah, ever. But look, I think that his brand is tarnished and he's toast.
Anthony, do you agree with it that he's toast or tarnished?
He's far from being toast. I think he has done a great job. I think the governor has been accused of a lot of things, but he's never been accused of being a phony. That apology and the decisive action he took is exactly what the best politicians would do.
And obviously he hasn't even been sworn in for a second term, but everybody is looking forward to the 2016. Do you really think that this is going to continue to haunt him?
It's a long period of time.
No way.
Absolutely, and he's done other retribution incidents with other politicians,
it really depends.
Which we know they all do.
It really depends upon what else comes out. This
exactly.
Is the end, this is the end of it. It's going to be done.
I don't know if we can see this one newspaper. Of course, this is the Daily News. If we can see this, I'm going to turn that over there. A lot of the headlines I thought, or maybe a little bit unfair. This one, of course, saying fat chance. There we go, fat chance now. What did you think about the media coverage as a whole? Of course, it depends upon what outlook you were watching, and if you were watching Fox, obviously they were defending him. If they were watching CNN, they were probably on Jackie's side on that one. But if we take a look at some of the coverage, what did you think overall of the coverage?
I think it was sensationalized a bit too much. I think this is a story that's more local than national, but because of Christie's position on the presidential campaign, I think this got blown out of proportion. But, you know, again, not to compare the White House, but we had an IRS situation that was not nearly as covered in a short period of time as this. It's really something that the media loves to do, and I give them credit, they do their job well, but this is something that is not as big as it seems unless more information comes out, which is damaging.
I will say one thing about the media. The Bergen Record broke the story, and I just think it proves that we need more journalists all the time. I mean, really, I was really actually quite proud of them for
break the story, but don't go overboard with it to the point where
I agree with you. I agree with you on that.
They're doing it because he's a target. He's the only one beating Hillary Clinton in the polls, and that's why he's a target with the Democrats and liberal media.
We have 1 minute.
Because Christie shot himself in the foot.
No, we have 1 minute left in this.
We
have 1 minute left in this segment. Put on your PR hats. Tell me the future of Chris Christie for the next. What should he do for the next couple of days and weeks to make this go away?
I think he should continue to reach out to the press as well as to his constituents and his adversaries and try to smooth this over and come to a complete investigation and be done with it.
Thank you, Anthony.
The
Jackie?
truth will set him free.
Okay.
I think he continues doing what he's doing. He's a strong leader, handled it well, and just keep on keeping on. Chris Christie is a force to be reckoned with. This didn't hurt him at all.
Well, I have a feeling we're going to continue to be debating this as more information does come out. We thank you all for your insights. Anthony, thank you for being on the show for the first time. And keep it here to Fresh Outlook. We'll talk about Bernie Madoff. Now, you may remember him. He's the man who swindled thousands of innocent people out of their life savings. Well, that long con went on for decades, and J.P. Morgan was his bank of choice. This week, that cost J.P. Morgan the largest Department of Justice penalty in U.S. history.